In the bustling city center, where skyscrapers reached the night sky, lived Kira, a young woman with penetrating eyes and a sharp mind. At 18, she attended university during the day and found refuge in the hustle and bustle of the metropolis at night. One unusual night, while Kira was exploring an antique store hidden in the city's dark alleys, she found a black notebook, apparently forgotten by time. The title Death Note was engraved on the cover, and curiosity led her to leaf through it. Intrigued by the instructions inscribed at the beginning of the notebook, Kira discovered that the Death Note had the power to take the life of anyone who had their name written in it, as long as the individual's face was in their mind when they wrote. However, a crucial condition was that she also needed to know the person's full name. Kira, a psychology student fascinated by human behavior, saw this discovery as a unique opportunity to understand the complexities of human nature. At the same time, an ominous voice echoed in his mind, suggesting darker possibilities. As the days passed, Kira found herself torn between her thirst for knowledge and the dark side that the Death Note offered. While attending day classes and interacting with peers, she observed human behavior in a different way, questioning the morality of her actions. Kira began taking detailed notes about her observations, exploring the human psyche more deeply than ever before. She was determined to understand what drove people to make certain decisions, to commit certain acts. But an inner voice tempted her to explore the darker side of her discoveries. One night, unable to resist the temptation, Kira wrote the name of a notorious criminal in the Death Note. The impact was immediate. News about the criminal's mysterious death quickly spread throughout the city. Kira was fascinated by the power she had in her hands, but she also began to question the ethics of her actions. Kira's fascination with the Death Note began to consume her, turning into a kind of mind game. She began choosing her victims based on a twisted morality, convincing herself that she was enacting justice by eliminating those who harmed others. Meanwhile, the outside world reacted to the wave of mysterious deaths. Police were perplexed by the apparent connection between the deaths, and rumors of a masked vigilante began to spread. Kira, in turn, continued her dark journey, meticulously recording every action and reaction in her notebook. However, Kira's inner duality began to weigh on her. The sinister voice that encouraged her began to manifest itself more clearly, feeding on her fears and uncertainties. Kira, despite her apparent power, was losing herself in the downward spiral of her own choices. One day, as Kira was flipping through her notes, she noticed something that made her shudder. Innocent people began to be inadvertently involved in her actions. The Death Note, far from being a tool of justice, has become a destructive force, taking lives without discrimination. Faced with the devastation her actions have caused, Kira finds herself in an impossible moral dilemma. The inner duality reached a critical point, and she realized that she could no longer ignore the consequences of her choices. The ominous voice intensified, urging her to fully embrace the power of the Death Note. Kira, however, found an inner strength she didn't know she possessed. She decided to face the consequences of her actions, undertaking a mission to undo the harm she had caused. The notebook, now a source of remorse, has become an instrument for redemption. Determined to correct her mistakes, Kira began using the Death Note in reverse. Instead of taking lives, she used the notebook to find ways to save those who had been harmed by her actions. Every name she wrote now was an effort to repair the torn fabric of life. The police, still searching for the unknown vigilante, began to notice a change in death patterns. Victims previously sentenced to death by Kira were now spared, while those who had suffered unjustly began to find redemption. Kira, once lost in the darkness of her own choices, was committed to bringing light back to the world she inadvertently darkened. Yet the ominous voice persisted, testing her resolve and threatening to drag her back into the darkness. As Kira continued her search for redemption, the pressure on her increased. Police, closer than ever, began connecting the dots between the original killings and subsequent attempts at correction. Kira, aware that her identity was at risk, faced the possibility of being discovered. The final confrontation was approaching. The sinister voice, now a tangible presence in her mind, tried to convince her that redemption was an illusion, that her only way out was to fully embrace the power of the Death Note. Kira resisted, using her inner strength to face the shadows that threatened to consume her. The climax culminated in a confrontation between Kira and the police, as she tried to undo the harm she had caused, and they attempted to capture the masked vigilante. In a tense confrontation, Kira revealed the truth behind the Death Note and her quest for redemption. In the end, Kira faced earthly justice for the crimes she committed, but her journey was not over. The duality within remained a part of her, a constant reminder of the choices that shaped her life. As the ominous voice continued to whisper in her mind, Kira walked toward the unknown, determined to find a way beyond the shadows that once enveloped her.